My name is Nick Dixon. I'm in the Lindon 12th ward. So back in 2017, I was just kind of in a place in my life where it was a really interesting time, because about 5 years earlier or so, I'd come back to church after about 10 years of being out. Part of the reason that brought me back in was I was really seeking joy in my life. I was in this place where I was active, I was going to church every Sunday, but I just really wasn't feeling the joy that I was expecting would come from going back to church. And so my wife, Lindsay, she was actively going to the temple every single week, and she just seemed in such a better place than I was. And she was encouraging me, you should go to the temple. What I decided to do was something I'd never done before. I called it the curriculum. And I was like, I've never done the curriculum before of the church. I've never gone and done daily scripture study. I've read my scriptures, but never daily scripture study. I've never, my prayers were kind of, the same prayer every prayer. And I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna give this one full year of seeing what happens. And I called it my Alma 32 experience. I'm gonna see if this can actually change my life, because there's not many things in life that can actually be life-changing experience. I decided to go. I did this for an entire year. I kind of followed her example, and it ended up being a really life-changing experience for me. And it's been about going on my 9th year, and I've been able to, almost every single week, other than the pandemic, obviously, been able to attend the temple ever since. And there's been a lot of things that I can say that have changed my life during this time. One of them was I always had a tough time obeying the word of wisdom. That's been a tough thing for me my entire life. So many times I would, pray and just ask for that to be taken away from me. Like this desire to, smoking was my vice. And just something really amazing happened when I went to the temple, because, going every single week, somehow, I can't explain it, but I had the strength to actually not smoke. I've been able to obey the word of wisdom for the last 10 years. I've tried many things in order to quit. It just doesn't make logical sense to me. But the fact of the matter is I was able to quit smoking. Another thing was my marriage. I had a really hard marriage. A lot of it, I put the blame on my wife for it not working. The reality is going to the temple every single week and sitting there and making covenants, and then Monday through the next week realizing I'm keeping very little of these covenants every single week that I promised that I would do, and so little by little, that was just, in the back of my mind. It became in the forefront of my mind. And it allowed me to work a lot harder on that. And, our marriage has been, the type of marriage I've always wanted. It's what it's turned into. It also allowed me to be in a position where I actually enjoyed church. Church for me was a really hard thing for a long time. On Sundays I would wake up and it would be more like, okay, it's like I'd have to psych myself up. And it's like, we're going to do this. We're going to go to church. I'm going to put on a happy face. And going to the temple every single week actually allowed me to really start to enjoy church. There's something in me that changed, which allowed me to want to be there and want to participate and want to interact with other people. I think that maybe years ago that interaction really was, I'm not like a lot of these people. And so that was a hard thing for me. And now that's still the case, but I realized that we actually have a lot more in common than I ever realized, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. I think overall the biggest thing for me has been that I actually finally found that joy that I was looking for. President Nelson has this story where he's on this plane and the plane catches on fire, the engine catches on fire, and it starts to go down. And everyone's panicking on this plane, but he feels so calm. He says, I was going to die, and he just felt peace. I always made this joke that I was like, what would it be like to feel that kind of peace? But I'm not talking about like as a plane going down. I'm talking about like on a random Tuesday or something. Just to actually feel peace in my life. What would that be like? And it was something I was always seeking. And what I've learned is that by going to the temple every single week, I've had that type of peace in my life. And I can't say that I've had it, 24/7 every single day. Life happens and I'm not perfect and I've got a really long ways to go. But that type of peace I've actually began to experience in my life. And that for me has been life-changing. And going back to church was what I was seeking that the entire time, was that type of peace. And the only place I was actually able to find that was by regular temple attendance, because that actually trickled down into every other area of my life. In his house, I learned how to find joy.